Good afternoon, all. Paul from CamelbackTrading.org coming to you this Friday afternoon, October 24th. We're looking at Window Trader's market profile of the ES and NQ. We'll be recapping all the charts today. Well, kudos to the bulls, right? We talked last night. We talked this morning, the three scenarios. Well, the third scenario of balance rules came into play. In ES and in NQ, even righty to a point, as even though they didn't get their all-time high, you can call righty up on the daily. So, and that was getting through a balance high and don't look back. All three of us held gaps. All three of us have wide POCs. Righty did not get an IB high or low. We failed to hold our afternoon pullbacks when M took it out. But M did what M does, right? Look what we did up here, by the way. ES goes out with a poor high, as does SPY at their all-time high. Look at all the volume up here. And they can never, I really thought at some point they were going to run these stops. They ran stops twice in NQ, F and I. ES, they only did it in D, and that was it. Okay, never did it with all this long pressure building up here. And plus, obviously, people were short and making some money. But, so that's another target to shoot for as we go into next week. Range and volume both disappointing at all-time highs. We're not picking up any longer-term buyers, that's for sure. This is all short-term money that's moving this market. But again, you can't take anything away from the bulls. When you look at the charts, it's going to be hard to look at the charts and say, well, the bulls really didn't do much. We'll get to that in a minute. But they're really firmly in control. Had a good day. I shut down my personal right after C period. I knew the IB was not going to be the easiest, and that's why I shut it down. But in A period, I got the overnight high. I got the A's high in B. C period, I was long against the 144, and along with all that, A, B, and C, any ebb and flow long, because any pullbacks were still being pushed up at that time, even though we couldn't get the IB. So I shut that down. I went to a couple of the prop accounts. I started in D period. I held this trade. It's probably one of the longest trades I ever held. I thought we were going to pop the IB in D. Well, we didn't. I started along at 40 and a quarter. It was all over the map. But every time it pushed down, I kept those two. And I would add, push up, out. Down, add, push up, out. So I kept doing that. And then the funny thing was, so I did that in D, E, and F. I was still doing that. Still holding the 2 from 40 and a quarter. And then in F period, I'm like, you know what? I've done pretty well on all these add-ons and taking off for over an hour. So when F got up to, I think it was 46, I'm like, I'll tell you what, whoever's long, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to take the 2 off that I originally bought an hour and a half ago at 40 and a quarter and lock in everything as a winner. I'm telling you, no sooner did I sold that when F ran the stops. So if I had waited probably, I'm not exaggerating, maybe 15 seconds, maybe 10 to 15 seconds, I would have gotten at least another 10 points out of that other 2, which would have been another 20 points. But some people in the room were long at that point. I told them I did it for them because I knew once I got out of those 2 that I was holding, it would finally pop. And then I had one more long in J period, and that was it. It got really boring in the afternoon. And then M, like we said, just wiped out a lot of long inventory that was up here all day. That's all. So again, people who've been short and getting crushed will look at this as, oh, wow, the market closed so poorly. No, it didn't. Okay? It's just M doing M. Now, before we get to the charts, I do want to show you one thing in righty, because we mentioned this. Okay? We didn't mention it today. We mentioned it the day it happened. So that's on the 15th. We have excess at the all-time high. And at that point, ES and NQ had their all-time highs in the overnight. And I said, depending on how this acts the next day, and obviously next day we never got back near that excess, I said there's a possibility that ES and NQ can go get those overnight all-time highs, and righty leaves this excess. Said that 8 days ago. So far, that's exactly what has happened. Now, a couple of things. Number one, we have a poor high in ES, so there is zero excess at ES's all-time high. I don't expect that to hold, but it's in regular trading hours. NQ has a little excess, nothing big at their all-time high, but it's in regular trading hours. So I'm curious to see what transpires as we go forward now. You know, righty, and the reason I follow righties, because a lot of times they could act as the canary in the coal mine. So I'm curious to see if that excess continues to hold. Now, they're up on all three time frames. So the odds of that holding probably aren't good. But it has held so far since the 15th, okay? Which is a week ago Wednesday. So that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's 8 trading days it's held. So I'm curious to see if it does hold. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. Okay? Now, let's get to those charts. And by the way, again, before I get to them, if you do want to do a prop account, again, affiliated with Tradeify, which I think is one of the best ones out there, my link is on the morning and afternoon videos. So if you do decide to go with them, I'd appreciate it if you use my link. Okay? I did get to that level I had talked about where I should be able to take money out now in November, and I'm giving 10% of what I take out to St. Jude. So we still have about another 2 weeks or so before I would be able to take the money out. So if you sign up prior to then, again, that would add on what I donate. Okay? So thank you. Now, let's get to the charts. All right? Here's the Russell. We always talking about getting away from prior time frame highs, right? Now, IWM got about $5 higher than the previous month's high. Right now, we're sitting about $3 above it, $2 above it. But it's still healthy, okay? This is an incredible move from these April lows. It's just absolutely stunning what this market has done so far and continues to do. Okay? So the monthly is very healthy. The weekly is an inside week. But I called the weekly up last week, even with that excess when we pulled back. Why? Because we took out the previous all-time high pretty good, and we didn't take out a weekly low. Same with this week. We didn't take out a weekly low. Now, if you want to call it up to balance, I don't have a problem with that because it is an inside week. So that excess, and you can see it a lot clearer on the weekly, right? So the weekly is up to balance because of the inside week. The daily, oh, that's the monthly. The daily is up, but you have your excess up here. So again, the market is strong. So who's going to win? Gap is our main focus, along with the excess. What gets taken back first? Do the buyers take out the excess and we go higher? Do the bears take back the gap and we roll over? Odds right now, you would have to say favor bulls because they're up on all time frames. But it's definitely a real interesting thing to keep an eye on. Okay? Now let's go to NQ and the triple Qs. Again, last time I did this, I know I didn't recap last week because I was away on Friday, but we were up 50% from the lows. It's probably gone higher, right? 402 to 618. That's $216, right? 40 times 5 is 200. So you're up over 50%. Think about that. You're up over 50% from April's lows. Will this monthly on all of our indices need to come into balance at some point? Oh, absolutely. But why? Who are we to try to pick the top? Right? Who are we to pick the top or try to pick the top? Just something to keep in mind. Okay? Last month we got above the previous month by $19. This month we're above by $16 with a week to go. So it keeps pushing. So the monthly's up. The weekly's up. And the daily, after 10 days of balance, not only is up, but it gapped higher to an all-time high. So again, who are we to try to pick? Tops. Right? And then the S&P, same thing. Monthly checks, they were up over 40%. So I'm not sure what it is now, but it's up over 40% from April's lows. That's 6.5 months. Actually, it's more than 6.5 months because your low was put in, if I'm not mistaken, on April 7th. So it's almost all of April. So 7 months off those lows, straight up. Weekly, up. Inside week, we had success. Same with triple Qs, right? And NQ. And the daily, same thing. Broke out of a mini 4-day balance and a bigger 10-day balance, up on a gap. Now we're at average volume, so it's not horrendous volume. Same with Qs. IWM is below average by about 8 million. So we'll see. Look, you would like to see, if you're a bull, you would like to see the volume pick up and the range extend, because that would tell you this potentially longer time frame buy is coming in. That's not happening. We know that it's all short-term plays such as ourselves and algos and machine-driven. Okay? So eventually, if you don't get longer-term money in, and I believe there's a lot of money sitting out there. I really do. I think they were hoping for a pullback, right? Think about it. You're not going to sell what you're long. Who in their right mind as a fund manager would sell? So you want to know why there's no sellers? Why would you sell? The bigger question is where to buy more, because I'm sure there's still cash on the sidelines, and they were looking or were hoping at some point to get a pullback. Well, if that pullback doesn't come on the monthly, we only have 2 months left in the year. You never know if they come in and really start blowing this market even higher. Don't ever doubt that potential. Okay? So I hope all this helps. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on Righty to see if that's any indication as we go forward. But today, the Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ hit all-time highs. Obviously, Righty didn't. And the transports have been dead in the water since 2021. That was when they hit their all-time high. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing to this channel. Come check us out, camelbacktrading.org. Rest up. Enjoy your weekend. And we will speak prior to the opening on Monday.